Hi, this is Danny Jerbeck here with Awards Radar, and I am delighted to have with me today the wonderful, the talented Niecy Nash-Betts. Niecy, how are you today? Thank you so much for joining me.
I am doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I am so excited to be talking about Origin, a film that absolutely blew me away. But first of all, I want to also say congratulations on your Emmy and your Emmy nomination. And it is, I'm sure, a very exciting time, a very busy time. But congratulations on all of the things you're doing. It's all
Thank,
great work.
thank you so much.
So as I said, Origin, it's a film that absolutely blew me away from Ava Duvernay, and I am so grateful to have an opportunity to unpack it with you a bit today. So to kick it off, I'm curious to hear if you were familiar at all with the source material from Isabel Wilkerson Caste, The Origins of Our
Well,
Discontents.
you know what? I was not familiar until Ava called me and said, I've adapted this book, I've written a part for you. And I'm sad because I don't think you're going to be able to do it. And I said, well, how come I can't do it? But I was working another full-time job at the time, and it just didn't look like there was a window. So I did what any friend would do. I said, well, let me help you think of somebody else who could do it. And everyone I named, she was said, no, no, not that person, not that person. And she said, my problem is that I can only hear you in my mind. And I said, okay, well, we're going to have to, send some prayers up to figure out how to make the schedule work. And lucky for me, it did, because Origin is the most beautiful piece of art I've ever been a part of.
I can completely second that for one of the most beautiful pieces of arts I've had an opportunity to witness. And so when you received the script, what were some of your first impressions about what this project meant and just what Ava was attempting to bring to screen with this script?
Well, I have to tell you that my knee jerk reaction was, this film is so timely for, the state of the world right now. It is the film that we need that could all move us a little further forward as a whole. But then Ava said, I need a little bit of levity, a little bit of light. I said, in this one? And she said, absolutely. And I know you are the one who could find it for me. So that was a heavy task because the subject matter is so daunting. But, we trust each other a lot, which meant that some of the comedic moments, or I'm going to say light, not even comedic, some of the lighter moments were not on the page. So I just had to find them in scene.
It's really beautiful to watch how this all begins to come together. You, of course, play the character of Marion, cousin and close confidant of our protagonist, Isabel Wilkerson. How did you begin to build this character? Was it conversations with Isabel herself, or just, what were those impressions and beginnings of what Marion would bring to this project?
Well, no, I didn't have conversations with Isabel, but I understood from Ava that, you know, the character Marion and Isabel were very close. And that was what needed to be built upon, the fact that her cousin provided provision for the vision. And how do you make that happen? Well, for me, it starts before I get to set. So with putting in calls to Aunjanue to say, I'm calling you to check on you. Do you need anything? How can I support you in whatever you have today? So it kind of started before I ever got to set. So that by the time I got there, it was almost like a second hand.
So when you get to set, I know that you have worked previously with both Anjanou and Ava.
Yes.
What was different about the experience with this film, having worked with them both in the past, but taking on a project of the scope and ambition like Origin?
Well, I will say for me working with Aunjanue, when we work together and when they see us, we were mortal enemies. So that's very different than being loving and supportive. That's a very different thing. And with Ava, um, she has this unique ability in the way she supports her actors and speaks into their listening. So our rapport with each other is easy no matter what the medium is.
And this medium is a medium that I've loved to see you in these more dramatic roles of late. Of course, you've worked in comedy roles many times before. How is that a different, is that a different process for you? Is that a different approach to how you're attacking these different comedic versus dramatic roles?
Well, what I try to do, the thing that is the common thread is that no matter what the character is, I try to find a place where the character and myself intersect so that I could weave some things in my performance that feel extremely natural and grounded. And the dramatic hat hadn't been afforded to me for quite some time. It was like, you stay in the comedy lane, we know exactly what you do. And now that I've, proven myself on the dramatic side, I think people forgot I was funny. I'm like, oh Lord, I got to do a rom-com quick.
Well, I'd sign up to watch that too. But with this film in particular, it's an incredibly unique construction of what this script is attempting to pull off with blending historical drama, personal drama, all through the lens of Wilkerson's words. So the side that your character Marion is primarily operating in is that personal side for Isabel as a character. How did you see yourself fitting into that kind of portion of the movie and how that was going to be helped to translate the larger messages?
I'm sorry, say that, ask me the question one more time. You said, how did I see what?
How did you see yourself fitting into this one specific part of the movie that's this
Oh,
personal drama for Isabel and all of the tragedy that happens in her life?
well, the way I saw myself fitting in was to really be Anjanue's support system or Isabel's support system in the film. In every step of the way, whether we're on the phone, gabbing it up while she's running around the world, or I'm sitting at the table with her and we're going through old family photographs. I just wanted to make sure that she felt covered and that she knew that she had a partner, especially after the other losses in her life.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And behind the scenes, I will tell you how I feel like I fit. There is a scene where Isabel and Marion sit down at the table and are going over old photographs. Now, Aunjanue is tasked with being super emotional and having a lot of painful moments in this movie. But there was a tiny stage direction that says, we enter on the ladies laughing. And I said, well, this is a moment for me to gift Anjanou some real laughs in a film that is so painful. So every time Ava said action, I told a different story to get a genuine laugh. And I felt like, it was just a little bit of what I could provide for her in the moment, seeing as how so much of her script, I mean, so much of her character was in pain most of the movie. And I was like, well, tonight you're going to have a good time.
I love hearing that, bringing some levity to what is a monumental tragedy of events that happen throughout this protagonist's life and Isabel Wilkerson's life. But I really love one scene in particular where you're speaking with Aunjanue and she's kind of explaining this thesis that she's building, and you say, make it plain. Tell me, speak to me as a real person how this operates. What does this mean to you, and how can you translate that to other people? And it's an incredibly powerful moment, I think, in the way that Isabel's needs to communicate this to the world because it's such a monumental story to tell. And so how did you go about that scene in particular?
Well, I feel like, Marion is every man. She's the audience. We enter in through her lens, and she's like, what is it again? You know what I mean? Say more of that thing. Make it plain. Talk to the people the way you're talking to me. And so that's what I feel like, at that point in the film, I feel like the audience is thinking the same thing. And we're all like, say what now? And so want to have it unpacked in a way that we can digest it.
Yeah, and it's so I think a crucial turning point for Isabel too, and how she wants to communicate this idea to the world. How did you tap into because there's as the film develops, there's of course more and more tragedy that occurs with Isabel's loss, and
Yeah.
eventually she loses you as well. How did you tap into the emotions of what that meant for Isabel and how she was going to continue to move forward in her life without the support system that you have spoken to?
Well, I mean, for me, when the other losses take place prior to Marion, um, those are losses that I feel like Marion is grieving with her as well. You know what I mean? And we've all, you know what I mean, been at a place of loss, whether it's a loved one, whether it's a relationship, you tap in there. But once it's my turn, you know, you want to, for me, I felt like it was so important to give her something that she could bake in that said, even though I'm not going to be here, you go forth and be great. You go
Mhm.
forth and the thing. You go forth and tell the story because people need to hear it.
That's incredible. What was the experience of Ava working with her on set with I truly believe she is a singular and visionary voice in the work that she does. And what's it like to just be on set under working under that vision and what she and how she wants to execute it?
Let me tell you, working with Ava, it's just like watching one of the greats. I mean, no matter what happens on set, she remains unflappable. And one of the things that I thought was so beautiful that she did on this particular movie was that, this whole idea of the caste system is what the film was about. But she said, how can I direct a film about this and then still keep those practices in place on my set? So I just watched her dismantling those old practices. You know how there's always a camera and B camera. Those are two separate teams. And we did away with that. Because A camera is traditionally the shiniest or you know what I mean, the more forward facing. So it was east and west camera, and you
Hmm.
didn't know who was who. Our background is usually very set aside, but Ava took it upon herself to consistently go to background holding and get to know all the people and talk to them every day because normally that wouldn't happen. So, just trying to be about it in practice was a beautiful thing to watch and not just make a movie about.
That's really special to hear. I think this is a movie that is necessary, it's important, and I hope so many people see it. And I would ask you, do you have any hopes for how audiences will receive this? Anything that they'll learn or take away from the experience of this film?
I hope that audiences see Caste as a beautiful invitation to unlearn what they thought they knew.
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for your time, Niecy. This is, I believe, truly a brilliant work of art, and I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to speak with you about it. Thank you so much for all of the work that you do. It is always a pleasure to see you on screen and to meet you today as well. So thank you again for your time, and I look forward to what's coming ahead for you as well.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.